Hello, and welcome to G Fun Facts Online. We often think of war in terms of soldiers, battles, and grand strategies. But behind every army, there's another, equally crucial battlefield: the economy. How does a country suddenly afford the astronomical cost of a full-scale conflict? We're talking about numbers so big they're hard to grasp. The United States bill for World War II, for instance, was over $300 billion. In today's money, that's more than $4 trillion. So where does all that money come from? It's not like a government can just check under the sofa cushions. Today, we're diving into the incredible economic machine that powers a nation at war. Governments basically have a three-pronged financial attack plan. They can tax you, borrow from you, or simply print more money. Let's start with taxes. This is the most direct route. During World War I, the standard income tax in the UK rocketed from just 6% to 30% in only 4 years. On top of that, many countries introduced something called an excess profits tax. The idea was to capture the huge profits companies were making from war production. In 1917, the US cranked up corporate tax rates from a mere 1% all the way to 12% to make sure everyone was contributing to the effort. But when taxes aren't enough, governments turn to borrowing. And the most famous way to do this is with war bonds. These were genius for two reasons. First, they raised massive amounts of cash. During World War II, 85 million Americans bought over $180 billion worth of bonds. Second, they acted as a patriotic rallying cry. The government launched huge campaigns with slogans like "Buy bonds till it hurts," and got celebrities involved. You could buy a $25 bond for just $18.75, and in 10 years, it would mature to its full value. It made everyday citizens feel like they were directly funding the fight for victory. The third option is a bit riskier: getting the central bank to create new money. Think of the central bank as the government's financier of last resort. In extreme cases, it can just print money to buy government debt. The Bank of England did this during the Napoleonic Wars. It's a powerful tool, but it comes with a massive danger: inflation. Pumping all that new cash into the economy makes the money you already have worth less. It's like a hidden tax that quietly erodes everyone's savings. Of course, money is only half the story. You also need to actually make all the stuff. This is where a country's entire industrial base gets a radical makeover. The phrase "beating plowshares into swords" is literally what happens. Factories that were making cars one day were suddenly churning out tanks and planes the next. During World War II, the US government created agencies like the War Production Board to manage this colossal shift. They directed which factories made what, and they allocated scarce resources like rubber and copper. The results were mind-blowing. American industry became a war-winning machine. For the people back home, these economic shifts were felt every single day. The most obvious change was rationing. To make sure there were enough resources for the military, governments controlled who could buy what. People were given ration books with stamps for everything from gasoline and tires to meat and sugar. You needed both your money and your stamps to buy these items. This led to black markets, of course, but it was a crucial system for managing shortages. Interestingly, for some low-income families, rationing actually meant they got a fairer share of things like meat, which they might not have been able to afford otherwise. The long-term effects of this economic warfare are complex. For some, like the United States after World War II, the massive government spending acted as a huge economic stimulus. The US came out of the war as the world's dominant economic superpower. This idea is sometimes called military Keynesianism. But for many others, especially in Europe after World War I, the war left a legacy of crippling debt, high inflation, and entire economies in ruins. So what about today? In the 21st century, economic warfare has evolved. While traditional methods are still used, Ukraine, for instance, has used war bonds to help fund its defense. The new primary weapon is economic sanctions. These are things like asset freezes, travel bans, and trade embargoes, all designed to inflict financial pain on a target country without firing a single shot. The world's interconnected economy has itself become a new kind of battlefield. The lessons learned from the total economic mobilization of the past, both the incredible successes and the devastating failures, remain more relevant than ever as we face the global crises of today. That's all for this episode of G Fun Facts Online. Thanks for listening.